And we want a supernatural God to empower a natural plan, and we want to limit God to the natural realm. But we serve a supernatural God who is able to bring supernatural provision and open supernatural doors and make a way where there is no way. What is impossible with man is possible with God. With God, all things are possible, and nothing is impossible with God. A21 officially started about 15 years ago, but unofficially it truly started about 17 years ago. Some of you are going, Christine, you're jumping into A21. What's A21? A21 is a global anti-trafficking organisation that I run together with my husband Nick and a whole team. We have 19 offices in 15 countries around the world, and our whole goal is to abolish slavery everywhere together. Everything that we are doing, we want to abolish slavery everywhere forever. Everything is geared to that one central aim. And, you know, officially 15 years ago, but 17 years ago in my heart, something quite profound happened. I was speaking at a women's conference in Thessaloniki, Greece, and I was standing at the baggage carousel waiting for my bags to come. And while I was standing there, I saw all of these posters of these missing women and children. And it was stunning to me, the number of missing women and children. And of course, I could read Greek, and so I would see the words, it would say missing, missing, missing. And I wondered, how could there be so many missing children this part of the world? And I had just birthed my second daughter, Sophia, and so I was 40, I just had a second child, and so, you know, I was hormonal and very emotional anyway. But as I was looking at the children, there was a little girl, and her name on the poster was Sophia. Well, that was the moment I lost it. And I would say that was the moment that A21 was truly birthed in my heart, in my spirit, because I went from looking at someone else's daughter that was missing to seeing my own child. And when you look, you can look away. But when you can see, you can never unsee. And you know what was so moving, as I was standing there looking at all these missing children, went on to find out that these were the alleged victims of human trafficking, something I didn't even know was still happening in the world today at the time. About 6 months before that, I had been speaking at a women's conference in Poland, in Częstochowa. And I went from Częstochowa to Auschwitz because the fact was that I had studied German economic history at university for 3 years. And I had read so much about the Holocaust and was just very tender to you know, just all of the things that had happened, and being so close to that death camp, I thought I wanted to go and see what happened there. And when I went, I came to that place where the ovens were, and you know, over 6 million Jewish people were murdered and exterminated at death camps during the Second World War. And it was just shocking to me to think how many human beings were placed in those ovens. I couldn't believe that that had happened on the earth. And I remembered, as I was standing there, I remembered one of the articles that I had read in a book where one of the German pastors was talking about the fact that they would be singing hymns on Sunday morning, and their church was just in front of the train tracks. And every Sunday they would hear trains full of Jewish people screaming on their way to the death camps. And because the church didn't know what to do, they chose to sing the hymns louder so they could drown out the cries of the people. I remember when I read that, I was so devastated. It was unfathomable to me that the people of God would use hymns and songs of praise and worship to drown out the cries of the poor and the marginalized and the oppressed and the disenfranchised, rather than use it as fuel to stir us on to do something that would make a difference. And I remember at Auschwitz, as I stood there in front of those ovens, I prayed to God, if anything like this ever happens in my lifetime, Father, I'm never going to be silent. I didn't sign up for some kind of professional Christian speaking career. I signed up to be a follower of Jesus and do whatever he had called me to do on this earth in my lifetime, to see his kingdom come, his will be done here on earth as it was in heaven. And a few weeks after that, I was with Nick, and I would wake up in the middle of the night screaming. This has not happened to me very much in my life, but it certainly did about this. And out loud, I would be in a cold sweat and I would hear the cries of people screaming for our help. And I'd wake up and out loud, I'd be saying, we're coming to get you, we're coming to get you, we're coming to get you. So it wasn't that I was looking to start a global anti-trafficking organization at 40 years old, but I felt compelled by the Holy Spirit of God to go and to help reach those that were vulnerable to being enslaved, to help to rescue the victims that were just absolutely caught in captivity, and to restore the survivors. And we've given our lives to doing that. But the fact is that every time I kept going to God in prayer, I would just see those faces on those posters. And the thing that I've discovered is that prayer is a dangerous act. If you don't want to know the heart of God, then don't pray. If you don't want to change, then don't pray. If you don't want to build intimacy with God, don't pray. If you don't want to do the will of God, don't pray. If you don't want to love people, don't pray. If you don't want power supernaturally to infuse the work that you do on this side of eternity, don't pray. Why? Because prayer changes us. It changes us first and foremost, and secondly, it fuels us to get involved in the mission of God on the earth. Prayer breaks our heart for what breaks God's heart. Back in 2008, I remember when we started A21, I felt so strongly to start in Thessaloniki, Greece. It was where I first saw those posters. It's where I felt we were meant to do it. You know, I was Greek and I was adopted. I have adoption in my background. So I realized that I could easily have been one of those kids that I saw on the posters. Had I not been born in Australia where there was a rule of law and a proper adoption system set up, and I was born anywhere in one of those countries surrounding Thessaloniki, I could have been one of the very kids that I'm rescuing today. And so it was deeply personal to me. So we brought the consultants and we brought experts in, and in every case, every single one of them said, don't start in this region of the world. There is too much corruption. There is too much darkness. There are no laws protecting the rights of victims. Human trafficking is not even a crime up here. They told us time and time again, do not start in this region of the world because it is impossible and you will fail. But the fact is that Nick and I, through constantly praying and fasting, we just could not shake the fact that God wanted us to start in Thessaloniki. And the fact is, sometimes when you pray, prayer is going to take you to places that people would never send you. Prayer is going to take you to places that people would never go by choice. Prayer is going to take you to places that do not make sense in the natural. God, through prayer, is going to give you direction where people are going to think it's going to be impossible. God couldn't work. This is not going to happen. And I remember that's what happened to us. We got so much resistance. So many people were saying, don't do this. It's not going to work. It's not going to happen. And yet A21 started in Greece and there was great opposition because Thessaloniki is the sex capital of the Balkan region. And Greece is the parking lot for human trafficking in Europe. So no wonder the enemy did not want us there. No wonder the enemy would not want us to start there. It would seem ludicrous to start in one of the hardest places in the world with no experience, no resources, but God was showing us from the outset that He was the one that was in charge. This was always going to be bigger than us. We were never going to be good enough or resourced enough or educated enough or connected enough to do this in our own strength. God was letting us know right from the outset that we would need to hold tight to Him for direction. Well, you know what? Contrary to everyone's expectation, we immediately saw women rescued in Thessaloniki, Greece, and by the grace of God had successful convictions of perpetrators, and that was unheard of in that region of the world back then, which opened supernatural doors for us worldwide and supernatural connection, and through incredible partnerships and growth. Who would think that in only 15 years we would now have 19 offices in 15 countries around the world? And that was because of prayer. and continued prayer and ongoing prayer, because sometimes what is impossible with man is possible with God. And what is possible with God is impossible with man. So in the natural, starting there was impossible. But if God said it, God would provide it. If God said it, God would come through. If God said it, then God knew what he was going to do in the future. And so a lot of us are missing what God wants for us and our future because we're not asking God in prayer what he wants. We're trying to tell God what we want in prayer. We're limiting God to what is achievable rationally, empirically, what we're resourced enough to do, what we're talented enough to do, what we're equipped enough to do. We've taken the super out of the supernatural. And we want a supernatural God to empower a natural plan, and we want to limit God to the natural realm. But we serve a supernatural God who is able to bring supernatural provision and open supernatural doors and make a way where there is no way. What is impossible with man is possible with God. With God, all things are possible, and nothing is impossible with God. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and tap the bell icon so you're notified every time a new video is posted. I hope you'll share your thoughts in the comments, and if you feel led, please share this video with a friend who needs to see it. Thanks so much for watching.